And we are back with another reaction video, and this is going to be coming from my boy Hello Yassine Extras, and this is going to be talking about DDG and him feeling like he's more famous than the Fast and Furious. Now, I may have said this on one of my other videos. You know, I fuck with DDG. You know what I'm saying? He's funny, and I like his content, and you know, I like some of his perspective on certain things. So this actually should be interesting to see how and why he feels this way. So without wasting any more time, make sure you like, sub to the channel, sit back, and let's get to this reaction.
What's poppin', y'all? DDG just went off, and he decided to double, triple, quadruple down on what some people found was a wild statement to make. And he would tweet on February 2nd, streamers are richer and more influential than your traditional, quote, celebrity, ... And this stirred up a lot of drama, people disagreeing. Some people were saying like, yo, streamers aren't even recognized when they go out. Like, we saw Plagueboy Max at the Grammy Awards and everybody was walking past him. They thought he was a news reporter for some other outlet just because he had a camera on him. And DDG would go on to say a couple of things that I do agree with. So I'm gonna play you guys the first clip right now.
This is a fact. 100%, bro. All the lingo that every celebrity saying is from streamers. It's grown ass in the industry talking about Glaze, talking about Riz, talking about this and that. I got that from the streaming community. From your kids to your auntie to your mother, nephew to your niece. Ask them who the f they know. Kids don't listen to music like that no more. They watching clips. They on TikTok. They on YouTube Shorts. This and that. And kids run the world. Like, a lot of people be like, oh, kids, oh, your fan base is full of kids. That's great. What? That's amazing. That's the main supporter that you want, because them motherfuckers gonna grow up with you. Just like some of y'all. Some of y'all was young as when y'all started watching me. Now you grown.
Now, first thing off rip, what
Makes
he's
sense.
saying is true here. When he's talking about all the slang that these celebrities are using and these celebrities' kids are using come from streamers. But I do think DDG needs to make it clear that they specifically come from a subset of streamers, which is like, I would like to call it the post Aiden Ross era, because Aiden Ross was the first gigantic streamer, the first streamer to go mainstream that coincided with NBA 2K. Like, obviously there were 2K streamers and gamers, like for instance Soluminati, that may have had an influence, a strong influence on people like Plagueboy Max and also a Flight, but these guys never cracked the mainstream. So when Aiden Ross, who's tied to NBA 2K and Bronny and hip hop, he cracked into the mainstream, we got this post Aiden Ross era in Twitch where you had a lot of people involved with hip hop or NBA 2K that started to blow up after that. You had like the Kaisa Nats, you had the Your Rage, which Your Rage had his own fan base and he was killing it. But I'm talking about these guys went to the next level. So now when you think of mainstream streamers, you have an iShowSpeed as well. But the reason why I wanted to make that point is that it was the black streamers that were the people that came up. Like Glaze and Riz are AMP. I think they might be Kaisa Nat in particular, but they're AMP to say the least, that are bringing forth this type of slang that is in everybody's lexicon now. And we don't want to get the credit because it was all just not white streamers, because there was a bunch of different types of streamers before that. But before Aiden Ross, there were huge streamers. I saw them. There were streamers averaging more than what these streamers are averaging right now, but they did not have that cultural influence that even a DDG, right? Like My Ball. I'll give DDG credit for that. People are kind of using that like, yo, that's community ball. And that's like catching on even without him trying too hard for that right now. So we don't want to give credit to just streamers in general, because these other streamers pre Aiden Ross were not able to get that to happen. And the reason why we need to talk about that specifically is because there are streamers that I wouldn't say they're like racist, because I think that's like whack to just throw on somebody, but people would throw that label on them and they're using the same slang. So it's like, that doesn't really add up. But this point, he's 100% right about. When you talk about cultural influence, on kids, what celebrities are people following? I don't really see anybody following them and they're like, yo, I want to dress. Back in the day, people were like, yo, I want to dress just like that guy in that show or that.
Yeah, that's very true. How now it's like the coin is flipped to the other side. growing up, it was always, yo, I want to be like Jay-Z, or, I want to be like Nas, or maybe like a Will Smith or something like that. But now it's the total opposite. And I think the reason why is because more and more people are probably feeling like these celebrities, and this is not me saying that, but they just feel like these people are just weird. And this isn't to say that there aren't some streamers out there weird, but a lot of stuff is coming out in the news about these notable figures that we've seen over the last 20 plus years on television, in your magazines, newspapers, and stuff like that. So now streamers, you get the raw, uncut, see them in real time streaming and stuff like that. So much to the point where even some of these celebrities were trying to break into doing streaming like that. People like Aiden Ross and Kai Cenat, they kind of broke the mold with how we engage with people who are superstars. You feel me? So you could almost look at Kai Cenat like this generation's Arsenio Hall, and some people have said that, and you could look at like an Aiden Ross as like a David Letterman or Jay Leno or something like that. You feel me? So that's more popular now than celebrities, because celebrities usually would have like a mystique about them. We didn't know too much about them other than what came out in the news, especially pre-smartphones. You only really knew what was going on with a celebrity if it came out in the news. You feel me? So yeah, streamers are definitely more popular in a way, than most celebrities now.
Movie. Now they're like, yo, I want to look like, well, before they were saying I want to look like that rapper. Now they're like, yo, I want to look like that streamer that I watch all the time. DDG is also right when he talks about like, yo, kids are on YouTube Shorts these kids are getting the iPads at like 6 months. They were saying that the kids tried to scroll on the books when they first went to school because they were so confused that you had to like turn the page of a book because they never held a book until the first day of school. I don't know if that was real, but it's one of those things, and I have to clarify that I don't know if that's real, but it's one of those headlines that are just funny that you just have to repeat. But yeah, these kids are on Shorts and TikTok, and that's where a lot of these clips are surfacing, which is why streamers have a wider distribution than a traditional celebrity. What's a traditional celebrity now? Maybe a musician, an actor. I mean, when you're thinking about actors, who's the hottest actor? Timothée Chalamet. And when are you seeing Timothée Chalamet other than like he had a crazy rollout for Marty Supreme? But you have to be in front of people's faces constantly now, and it's hard to do that if you are an actor. Like, especially, I think things have changed.
Yeah, because actors, and this is just my opinion, I think with actors and actresses and maybe even some musicians, they can't really put themselves out there as much. They can't say as much, they can't do as much because it could tarnish the brand. A good case study for this, some may say Will Smith is a good case study for this, because when he started getting on Instagram, it was cool in the beginning. It was like, oh man, Will Smith has a Instagram. So, we get to see what he's like and stuff like that. But as time went on and we started to see the cracks in the foundation, it's like, oh, this is what goes on in your house. This is the type of time, your wife is on. This is what your kids is on. So it really, he was able to bounce back from it, of course, and he's doing this thing with the National Geographic. If y'all have not watched that, make sure y'all go watch that. But this is why you don't really see a Beyonce posting too much of what goes on in her personal life. She'll, for the most part, only post things that are related to her music videos. She'll post well-coordinated photos that were all thought out. You're not going to really catch her in the moment, just laughing and stuff like that. Everything that she's going to post is going to be choreographed, if you will. She's not going to give you that much into her life because she's a musician. This is what you pay for. That's what you're going to get. You know what I mean? You're not going to get Beyonce Knowles off stage. Like when she gets on stage or when she's in front of a camera, she turns into Beyonce. It's an alter ego. It's another personality. So
Because there was a phase when they would just drop a season of a show and then the people are watching it in a weekend and then they're not seeing that person's face outside of promotion. So there's
Right.
months going by and, you know, out of sight, out of mind where they aren't seeing the person's face. But I think now they've gone back to the type of format where they had like a weekly show or a weekly episode for the shows. I think it was Severance. That was one of the shows that did that. I haven't watched that show. Let me know.
another thing too, I know I'm stopping the video, but I'm gonna let it play some more. But another thing to note is that when you're a streamer, influencer, you can really run up a bag. You know what I'm saying? If you've already been monetized and you're getting the views and the traction, you got the subscribers that you need, it's like sky's the limit. You can really go crazy and be doing streams, 5 days a week or even 4 days a week. So people are engaging with you and you're constantly in the public eye. But like you said, if you're an actor, you do a movie and now you're about to take the next 6 months off or start preparing for another role that you got called for. So you're not really going to be out there for real doing anything. You might post a picture here and there on your Instagram, but that's all people are going to get from you. We're not going to see you live streaming and stuff like that. We won't see you until your next movie. You know what I'm saying? So that's really where all your money's tied up in. But that works for them because a guy like a Michael B. Jordan, he can do Sinners, get that huge bag, and then just chill. Now, if you're a streamer, it's a little bit different. You can chill, but you can't have the type of chill that a Michael B. Jordan has. He's getting millions of plus dollars for these roles. Whereas you, if you're a streamer, you making bread, but you gotta constantly, keep that money rolling in. You gotta make those streams. You gotta post videos and stuff like that in order to continue to. So it's a different ball game. You know what I'm saying?
If it's a good one. But when DDG talks about, oh yeah, kids run the world, kids are setting trends or they're following the trends. And if you're completely plugged out of what teenagers, not like kids, but what teenagers are plugged into, you're going to stay out of what's culturally relevant. That's for sure. But when he talks about, oh yeah, kids is the best fan base to have, I don't know about that. The thing is with kids, you have to have a fan base at scale, millions upon millions of them, because a kid's broke. Kid ain't got no money. However, if you have a fan base of adults, then you can have a much smaller fan base and they also make money. So they can pay you or buy stuff off of you and you're in a much better position. And also when kids are your fan base, you need so many of them. They're going to be the ones that are coming up to you in person all the time. Now you're a grown man getting swarmed by kids who probably haven't been taught how to act properly, how to approach people, which most adults have. Like if you have a fan base of people that are above 25, they're probably a lot more respectful, hopefully, and have a certain level of decorum where they're like, oh, this guy's at a restaurant. Let me just say like, hey, hello, how's it going? And be on my way, as opposed to following people around, screaming, just walking up to them and taking a photo like this is a zoo animal. So yeah, having a fan base of kids is definitely not great or ideal. However,
Well, I'll say this about that. It has its pros and its cons on both ends of the spectrum. So yes, if you have adults as your support base, yes, they can buy your merch. They can invest in whatever music you might be doing, e-course, whatever it is that you are selling. Yes, they would have the money. The only setback to having an adult fan base or supportive base is that adults tend to be busy and they got to work. They may have kids of their own that they got to tend to. So they're going to miss a lot of the content that you might be dropping. They might not be able to get to it days at a time. And for somebody who's in the content creating space, you need people to be engaged. Now, the upside with kids is that kids don't have no job. They just got to go to school. So you can rack up those views and stuff like that by having kids as your fan base or whatever. I think it's just for a lot of well-established celebrities, they denounce that or they look down on that. Like, man, all your fans is kids. What can they do? They can't go to the club, pop bottles and stuff like that. What can you do with them? You know what I'm saying? And then with all the crazy stuff that be going on in the news with this, that, and, people being moved across state lines, like it just creates a bad energy. So each side has its pros and its cons. Yes, adults, they can buy your stuff and things like that. Cons is that, you may get lost in that. They may lose you essentially because you get so caught up in your own world. Because being an adult, you don't really got a lot of time to sit and watch a certain content creator all the time as they're dropping content. Like even with my channel, I don't expect people that might have watched my videos from 2 videos ago to be maybe watching this one because they got life that they got to attend to. So yeah, it just really depends, man.
However, if you are someone that likes that likes the fame, which DDG for sure, I think he likes the fame, then yeah, it works. But I don't think that's something you can put across everybody. And DDG is a unique case because he's like a Ye in regards to this, where he had a generation of people grow up on him, and he's capturing a new generation with each change of his career, like from YouTubing to streaming, now also like TikTok and stuff. So he's got a new generation, and he's keeping these 2 audiences. Where some people, like a Jay-Z, for instance, he just has his original fan base. And of course, people listen to Jay-Z right now, but he's not tapping into what young people are going through. Whereas Ye, he's been able to do that generation upon generation upon generation. You ask for a person that's between 18 to 24's top 5, and you're going to find Ye there a lot more than you're going to find a Jay-Z, if you find Jay-Z at all. And it's probably just with somebody that's a real deal hip-hop fan. So we got to give DDG credit for that. But when he goes on to say the meetup thing, that's where we gotta disagree a little bit. And I'm gonna play you guys that clip right now.
If Vin Diesel tweet an address and I tweet an address, who's more lit, bro? Keep it a buck. Keep it a buck 50. Mirror Vin Diesel. If Chris Hemsworth tweet an address and say, meet me in the middle of New York, and Kai tweet it at the same time, and they in 2 different parts of New York, who's pulling up to what? Chris Hemsworth's a real celebrity. Traditional celebrity. A-list actor. Who's pulling up, bro? Come on, y'all. Yes, saying Kristen. All right, bro. I hope these see these clips and they do a meet and greet so y'all can see the difference, bro. I said what I said, man.
I mean, with that situation, I mean, it's kind of, I know some people say absolutely not. Chris Hemsworth, people are going to pull up to see him. And that might definitely be true on the adult side of the spectrum. Yeah, more adults are probably going to want to see him because of the Fast and the Furious franchise. Same thing with Vin Diesel. That's just what it would be. But kids, not so much. Kids would probably want to see a Kai, Sinet, or Speed before they see those guys because, like you said, the fan bases. You know what I mean? So his argument there might be a little skewed, a little bit off, because now you're talking a whole different ball game. Because kids, a lot of these kids today, they didn't grow up with Fast and Furious. Some of these kids weren't even born when the first Fast and Furious came out. Too Fast, Too Furious came out. They weren't around when this stuff came out. So they don't understand the culture behind it or the energy behind something like that. Not saying you wouldn't probably see some kids, but not in high numbers.
Y'all gonna quit downplaying content creators and streamers and all these other shit like is lame and they ain't shit. Boy, we playing with M's.
See, this is where DDG is right, contextually speaking. Now, when he's talking about Vin Diesel and him just tweeting out an address, yeah, how many of Vin Diesel's fans are just following his Twitter? Maybe they're on his IG, maybe they're on Facebook. But yeah, if he just tweets something out, more people are following DDG, like actively following DDG.
Yeah, because another thing you got to understand is people like Jay-Z, Vin Diesel, those type of guys, they didn't grow up with this. They were born in the 60s and 70s. That's Gen X, you might as well say. So their way and how they went about communicating with their fans would be when the movies come out and the red carpet events and they sign autographs and things like that. They didn't come from the streaming world. So no, they're not really going to be pressed to get followers and do live streams and stuff like that, because the kind of money that they make, they don't need to do that. They've made millions off of their blockbuster movies, and they can just go off and chill with their money. But it's a little bit different with streamers. Yes, there's a lot of money in streaming, but you have to constantly be out there, which it's a good thing. It's like exercise in a way.
And a Vin Diesel. And I think DDG would be correct in that more people would show up there. With a Kai Cenat and Chris Hemsworth, yeah, the same thing would happen, but Kai Cenat is a streamer that's a B-list celebrity. I would say A-list if we're counting people under 30, but the problem is people above 30, they're not too tapped in with, like, he would need to be in a movie or two that's big, and then that would be enough. Probably like one of the main characters of a movie.
Yeah, if Kai Cenat was to tap into that and get a major role in a blockbuster film like a Marvel movie or something like that, yeah, that would put him in a totally different hemisphere as far as, I guess, his rank in the celebrity world. Not saying he's not up there, but he's not like Will Smith or Leonardo DiCaprio or something like that. He's not in that hemisphere because he's not, he hasn't acted in a major movie like that before. So, but not to say that it can't happen. That might be the next thing that streamers start tapping into. They might actually start migrating over into that world. It's like, look, okay, we killed it in streaming. Now we coming for movies. Now we coming for music. I mean, DDG is already making music. So movies might be the next thing that streamers come and just knock the door down and just kick in the door and just kill it.
Movie or a TV series. That's enough to get that audience as well. But
Yeah.
the thing that we need to make sure is known is that what is the meetup going to look like? I think if you have a DDG meetup and a Kai Cenat meetup, I think we already saw what Kai Cenat's meetup looked like. It was chaotic. Everybody
Yeah.
was surrounding them. People were, Kai Cenat damn near got arrested for that. And he had to chop it up with the mayor and, be like, yo, we're going to get this in order. Don't worry about that. And he had to apologize. But that was a giveaway. That wasn't just a meetup. But now Kai Cenat's way, way, way bigger. So it could just be a meetup and people will swarm. Now, people showing up to a Chris Hemsworth or a Vin Diesel meetup, they're probably going to be a lot more chill. Maybe like there won't be chaos. But this is the thing. The people that follow a Chris Hemsworth or a Vin Diesel, these are grown people with families. So if they tweet out something in the middle, of the day or in the afternoon, let's say 2 to 3 p.m., well, the male that's following Chris Hemsworth or Vin Diesel is probably at his job at, I don't know, Deloitte and chilling there, or at some marketing company, who knows, and his wife is probably up there in Scarsdale with the kids, or Bronxville, and she's not going to take the drive down from Bronxville just to meet them on a whim. However, and they're working too because they're adults. However, if there is a book signing that a Chris Hemsworth was doing and it was a date in advance and people knew about it, that's a different story. It's like Pitbull. Pitbull's probably not getting swarmed out in the streets. I don't know, but when Pitbull is doing a concert and people have to pay money to show up to said concert, you see a packed arena. Now, can Kai Cenat or DDG do that? Can they pack out an arena? Can they pack out even 3,000 people paying for tickets? That's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different animals, man. Two different ends of the spectrum right there. Like, they're streamers, you know what I'm saying? So everything has its context. Of course, if they were to go to the Garden, they probably wouldn't sell out an arena because they have nothing in that fashion or in that manner. They're not. Now, DDG does rap. Now, would he sell out an arena? That's to be determined. I don't know, because a lot of people flake him on his rapping. I kind of think his rapping is kind of cool. And this ain't me caping or glazing or nothing like that, like they say. But, I genuinely think he's on to something with his music. But would they sell out an arena? Probably not, if I'm being honest. 9 times out of 9, they're probably not going to sell out no arena. But Pitbull, artists that make music, yeah, because people come there to dance. Kai Cenat doesn't make music. He streams. So what is he going to do in the Garden? Set up his streaming and people just going to sit there and engage with him? Nah, that's boring. So, yeah, two different ends of the spectrum.
And that's really what matters than people just showing up. But when DDG's talking about the money levels, yeah, if you're a top tier streamer, and by top tier streamer, we're talking about the top 50 to, I would say, yeah, the top 50
XQC,
streamers, they're
Aiden,
probably
Ross.
earning more than their celebrity counterparts. They're earning north of tens of
Mr.
millions
Beast,
of
yeah, them
dollars. At the
guys.
tippy top 10 streamers, probably north of 100 million. They're probably worth more than that, especially if they're taking, these other types types of deals where people got to
Yeah.
throw dice and all of that other stuff, then they're certainly making that much money. But with A-list celebrities, these guys have had bigger deals. They've had equity plays and liquor brands, things like that. Like a Chris Hemsworth and a Vin Diesel, if that's what he's talking about when he's talking about people that have made money. No, streamers are not touching the money that those guys have made because they've been making money for decades. And
Right. They got 90s money, 2000s money. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different type of money that they got. They don't need, the thing about them, like I said earlier, they don't need to stream. Jay-Z and them, they don't need to tap into that. You know what I'm saying? Because the kind of money that they get, all they got to do is make one play, and it's going to pay them millions, where they can just go off and chill and be mystique like they've always been. But streamers, it's a little bit different because you're not a blockbuster movie star. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, people like Michael B. Jordan, he doesn't have to stream because he's a A-list actor. So he doesn't have to do that. Same thing with Denzel Washington. It's just different.
Probably been making the right plays with their money. And streamers, we don't know how long their career lasts. We haven't seen that happen yet. But DDG is right when it comes to influence. Cultural influence, A-list celebrities don't really got it. A-list celebrities are kind of just at the whim of these new people. And that's why you see a lot of people tapping into streaming. Justin Bieber was streaming. And Justin Bieber has always done this. So we got to give him credit for that. He was tapping in with Viners when they were first blowing up. And him just tapping into streaming is something different. Now, these A-list select, when you have, who was it? Was it Mariah Carey? Whoever showed up to Kai Cenat's stream or Plagueboy Max's stream, there were two different incidents. One of the ones was with Ty Lil. I think it was Coco Jones, some R&B artist that was just using them for promo. And then I think it was Kai Cenat's Mafia-thon, where she just treated it, I think it was Mariah Carey, as like just this album promo. So they understand that they need to be in front of these platforms, but they don't know why. They're just like, oh yeah, they have these numbers. Although you need to be in front of these platforms in a different way than you were in the past. You can't just pull up on some, hey, you know.
And that's because, and I know the video's almost over, but that's because with them, they understand that they got to get the eyes and the ears of the youth. Because the Mariah Careys and the Coco Jones, well, I don't really say Coco Jones because she's pretty young, but the Mariah Careys and the Snoop Dogg's, like all these different people who've been making music longer than some of these kids have been alive, they need their eyes and ears. And the only way to these people is through the streamers. They got the eyes and ears of the youth. So that's why most of us who are in our 30s and up, like we're not necessarily watching streamers like that are this young. I mean, sometimes I'll tap in with a Kai Cenat stream when he was streaming or DDG. But I'll be moving. I'll be making my own content. You know, I work a whole 9 to 5. I got a whole son. So I'll be moving a lot. I don't be having time to just sit still like that. So I don't get to watch a lot of this stuff. But that's why these celebrities are on there. They're on there because they need the eyes and ears of the youth.
Oh, this is my product. This is my product. This is my product. They're looking at you like, get the hell out of here. And somebody that did this right was DDG when he would pull up to Aiden Ross early on before DDG even started actively streaming. And he just became cool with Aiden. He provided content. Tory Lanez, another one, they would freestyle and they weren't constantly pushing themselves. And people just became drawn to them and they started messing with them. But that's all I have to say on that topic without going too deep into it. But let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification.
All right, y'all. That's going to be the end of the video. I think DDG has a point to an extent. Streamers are very popular right now. They are the thing. They are the it factor when it comes to entertainment right now. Now, how long will that last? Only time will tell. If people are going to be interested in streaming 10 years from now. Because streaming, honestly, is a relatively new industry. Even though it's been around prior to 2020, it took off in the 2020s because of the lockdown, people being at home. So it just gave them a different perspective of entertainment to watch as opposed to waiting months for a movie to come out or watching something on Netflix. But only time's going to tell how long streaming. I think it'll be here for the long run, but it'll just go through its reiterations and it'll just change the type of streaming you do. Instead of sitting in front of a computer, you'll do the whole IRL in real life where you're moving around and people are seeing you engage with people. You know, that'll be more so going on than just sitting in front of a camera like I'm doing. But y'all let me know down in the comments what y'all think about that. Do streamers have more pull on the people than, say, a A-list celebrity? or is it the other way around? I would like to know. Y'all let me know down below. If you made it this far into the video, like I always say, I appreciate you for watching. It means a lot to me. I put a lot into these videos. Make sure, again, you like, sub to the channel, and until the next video, I'm out.